Hey guys, Whitey Epps here. I wanted to make this video talking about the Gen Z dating scene as someone who has been married for the last 3 years, and just gonna give my take and some advice that I would give to anybody that I know in my life that would come up to me. So I'll just give it to you guys with my perspective and takes on it. So here we go. The first thing to remember is that men and women are not equal. Now, I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I'm saying that they are not equal and that they are not the same, okay? Men and women are biologically, mentally, and physically completely different and opposite. That is the entire point. When God first made Adam and Eve, he made them different. He made man and woman separate, okay? That's the first thing we need to understand, is that from the beginning, we have always been separate and different and distinct. Now, what this means is that women communicate differently than men do. And you see this all the time where it's like women will sit and complain for 3 hours about a problem and then you try and solve it and they get mad at you for trying to solve it. Like, this is something that I see a lot. Women communicate differently. They are more focused on things that are not said, nonverbal cues, underlying meanings, this kind of between the lines, like, oh well, how did he say this versus what was actually said, you know? The common is, do I look fat? And if you hesitate for a second and say no, you hesitated. But if you say no, then you are instantly thinking. You see what I mean? Like the communication style is just incredibly different. Deborah Tannen's book, You Just Don't Understand, written in the 90s, is the exact perfect example of this, where she explains that women use report talk, focus on building connections, empathy, and relationships, paying close attention to things like tone, nonverbal cues, and underlying meanings, like I said before, indirectness, hedging, and reading implications that may help maintain harmony. So they're more emotional when they communicate, where men use what's called report talk, focus on conveying information, solving problems, and negotiating status, and more direct, literal, and content oriented. This is the exact prime example of when men are communicating in video games. You know what I mean? I mean, I know it's a meme, but it's like, men will communicate perfectly when they're playing video games. Why? Because it's all men, right? That's just the way that it is. If I say there's a shotgun in the hallway, that means there's a shotgun in the hallway. And there's nothing else to it. There's no emotional underlying, well, last game you said this. Now, you know what I mean? This is just basic common sense. Men and women communicate differently because their brains are different. Another thing is that women are more emotional. Elizabeth Valero Boster, University of Nebraska Lincoln, found that women are more easily susceptible to propaganda when it is directly curated to them and to their emotional appeal. And so she found that they would actually go and participate in fighting in several different conflicts because emotionally they felt like they had to and that they needed to, which is a very interesting thing. So we know that women are more susceptible to emotion and in turn to propaganda that directly plays on their emotions. There was a study done out of China that found that women are more susceptible to stronger responses when given emotional stimuli, especially negative emotions. So what they're saying is women react stronger to negative emotional stimuli. That's why you see them, like if you're in school, right, and they show the video of flash floods or whatever, and that like they don't care if like an entire family dies, right? But like the moment there's a dog swimming in the water or it's stranded on the top of a roof, like they start crying and they like get all upset because, oh my goodness, this poor dog, but it's like a family just died. You see the difference? Like, they are more susceptible to negative emotional stimuli. Now, this is not a incel chud blackpilling women are the root of all evil problem for all society video. That's a different topic for another time with my takes on that. But what I'm saying is men and women are different emotionally and cognitively and again physically. And all you need to do to prove physically is to just look at a man and woman side by side. Women are literally developed over thousands of years to give birth with wider hips, right? They are literally developing for different purposes. Who were the ones that would go out on the boats and raid towns and villages and fight in the wars while the others were at home? You see what I'm saying? Is that the first thing to understand is that men and women are scientifically, biologically, and physically different. That is just a fact. That is all it is. There's nothing wrong with that either. Once you realize that, then my advice will begin to make sense. So my first piece of advice would be this. Find a woman who goes to the same places or has some of the same hobbies as you. For example, find women at church. Now, this is a very contingent one because it's either old grandmas at your church or it's, these trad chicks who are all about, the home baking and the sourdough. And let me go off on that for a moment. Your perfect little trad wife that you see on the internet does not exist. That doesn't exist. There's a reason you only see that on the internet. Now you could say, oh, well, but the actual trads, they aren't online because their husbands tell them they can't talk. No, no. The trad wife does not exist. Every woman in this day and age, especially in Gen Z, has had the effects of feminism ingrained in them. Okay, that's just something that you have to accept and move on. You are never going to find the perfect trad wife who just wants to have babies and dogs and chickens. Like women say they want that, but do they really want that though? Right? How many women say they want that, but then they're at Walmart or Target or going shopping every weekend, or they're, I'm just a big city girl and I'm just a city girl. It's like that doesn't work. Your trad wife doesn't exist. Okay, get that out of your head right now. That only exists on the internet. Okay, get that out of your head. That is the first piece of advice. Okay. But as I was saying, find women that have the same hobbies as you. If you find women at church, talk to them. If you go to the gym, try and find someone who's at the gym, or literally any hobby you have. It will be more beneficial in the long run if you have shared hobbies, interests, and things like that. I'm not saying you have to date the exact female version of you, but it helps if you have some of the same underlying hobbies and enjoyments. You know what I mean? Secondly, as I was kind of saying before, the roots and causes and effects of feminism will be within every woman of this day and age. Okay, that's just something that you have to accept. But also realize that most women don't know this, but they do want a masculine, dependent man in their life. As much as they say that they don't, the moment they start seeing someone and dating someone who has those traditional values, who has the masculine attributes and traits, who has all these things, right? They're going to realize, oh, it's actually way better for me to date someone like this and potentially marry someone like that. Now, the next step is to work on yourself. And this is probably the biggest thing that I see and it needs to be done before any of the dating starts to occur is you player need to get your money up. You need to be the one who is trying to improve yourself. Now, I know that there's that cheesy line oh, if you're just doing everything right and you're just working on yourself, eventually you'll find someone. Yes, that's true to an extent, but it's not something that you should bank on all of the time. You know what I mean? So you need to work and get your money up, and you need to start all of your, the moment you hit 18 and graduate high school, this is controversial. I think you should enjoy a little bit of time, but not too much. I think that the moment you turn 18 and you start graduating, you need to just start working on yourself, because especially as a Gen Z man, it's only going to get worse. I'm sorry to black pill you, but it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get harder. Your life is going to be catered and stacked against you. So you need to do everything that you can to be the person that your future wife wants you to be. That's the next thing I would say, is date to marry. Now, that doesn't mean say, oh, well, I think we should get married after the first date. Do not do that, okay? Do not do that. But also, don't be playing around and don't be, out sleeping around. I know that all the manosphere advice will say, oh, sleep with as many women as you can, but then expect a virgin. My thoughts on this are maybe a little bit different than most, is that I think you should be working on yourself, get your money up, get your muscles up, get everything up, right? Start invest into yourself, improve yourself, so that way you have something to offer this woman when you begin to date. Okay. Now, the real issue is the women. It's not you, King. It's never you, King. It's not you, it's her. It's not you, I promise. It's just her. Sometimes, but I don't know. It's very situationally heavy, okay? Also, make sure that when you're dating someone, find someone who has a good relationship with her family, okay? You don't want a girl that has daddy issues. How she treats her dad is how she'll treat you, okay? Now, I'm not going to do this boomer slop of oh, happy wife, happy life. I think that's true, but there's a caveat to that. And my caveat to that is you both have to be contributing 100%. It's not 50-50. My personal idea and thought process on it is I need to do all that I can to help our family. You need to do all you can to help me help our family. For those of you that are Christian, there's that diagram of, husband, wife, and then as you come to God, you both become closer together, right? That is true. That in my experience, that is totally true, right? Your wife should be helping you, and you should be helping your family, right? As the man, that is what you are called to do. Okay, now I want to address the idea of getting married young while you're broke, and then you'll just be happy and live forever after, and all this other stuff. Okay, that is not true. Okay, that works in certain situations, and that worked with my situation to get married young, but that will not work with everybody. You should not be taking the advice of some boomer on the internet who hasn't been in the dating game for 50 plus years. You know what I mean? Now, let me kind of explain my situation. Where I work, it allowed us to go to school at a significantly discounted price. Now, I don't want to get into too many details, just for my own personal privacy and stuff like that. But my work, I was working full time and going to school. Okay, in fact, I still am. But what it does is my work allows me to pay for my wife's college tuition at an incredibly discounted price. Okay. I also have full-time benefits, which means health insurance and all these other things that are needed to live. As much as a scam as they may be, they have helped us in our situation many, many times. Okay. That is a very, very rare circumstance. All right. That not everybody has that. Okay. If you're working a part-time job down at Pizza Hut, right? Congratulations for you for getting your money up, but like that is not the time to get married, okay? That's not it, okay? My situation, I just happen to be able to work a full-time job, have those benefits, and just provide for my wife, right? And that was part of it. That was part of the reason we got married, because I was like, look, I can provide, we can do this, we can make it work. What's holding us back? And so, therefore, we got married, and it has been a great time ever since. There have been our ups and downs, but that's marriage advice and dating advice are two different things. The biggest things to take away from this video and to remember are that at the end of the day, you are never going to find the perfect trad wife who just sits at home and bakes all day, unless you are rich, which I don't know how many, that's a very extenuating case, right? Especially with the economy and the housing market and stuff like that, which is, again, a whole nother video. It's interesting how much the world is interconnected. I'm just having this kind of epitome now. The more I make these videos, the more I realize how much of our life is so connected. Anyway, that's besides the point. Realize that sometimes you may just not ever find someone for a very long time, right? Especially with the way the modern world is and the way that everything is going, is that you may not find someone. It's okay to be single, right? That's okay. As long as you're getting your money up and you're working on yourself, right? That's completely fine. And you're looking for someone who shares your same values and your same traditions, right? And at the end of the day, just remember that if you can never find a woman, it's because of the Jews and the Rothschilds, okay? That's all it is. It's a federal psyop to keep you from reaching your full potential to be Israel's number one hater, okay? That is all it is, all right? No, I'm joking, but maybe. Who knows? Maybe. I don't know. But that's all I got for today. Just the modern dating scene and some old Call of Duty footage. I don't know how many of you have ever played this Call of Duty. It's Call of Duty 1. I remember playing this. I had an Xbox 360 growing up, and so I don't. Anyway, this is a tangent. Anyway, but let me know what you thought of the video. Did you like it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would you change? What would you say? Just kind of stuff like that. I just figured I would give some of my advice. It's a very scary world out there, and for all my internet chuds, you know that I love you, and be safe, and God bless.